Good morning to all, and thank you for joining today's webinar held by Colmena 66, the Puerto Rico Science Technology Trust, in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Energy. This event is very important as the Puerto Rico Science Trust pursues the development of Puerto Rico as an innovation hub, seeks to bring federal agencies closer, and continues to share opportunities such as this one with entrepreneurs, researchers, and other professionals interested in technology and the research and development sector. Today's agenda includes some opening remarks from our CEO, Lucy Crespo, our SBIR advisor, Dr. Juan Figueroa, and our speaker, Eileen Chant. Then we will have the presentation and finally some time for Q&A. Please remember to submit your questions through the Q&A button located at the bottom of your screen. Now I want to present Lucy Crespo, Chief Executive Officer of the Puerto Rico Science Trust, who will be sharing the organization's stance and scope regarding SBIR and Sttr programs.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure to have you in this particular event. We are very pleased to hold the SBIR opportunities panel with the Department of Energy. I want to express my appreciation to the Colmena team, the Puerto Rico Science and Technology organization, that have put this event together, working with our SBIR Puerto Rico committee. In particular, I want to thank Eileen for being here and be the key speaker and outreach manager for the Department of Energy. For the Puerto Rico Science and Technology Trust, the SBIR program is one that is very important. As you know, the Puerto Rico Science and Technology Trust is a non-for-profit organization, and we have the mission to invest, facilitate, and build the capacity to advance Puerto Rico economy and the well-being of the citizens. And we do that through innovation-driven enterprises, science technology, and working with our industrial base. The SBIR program is a unique opportunity for companies to advance their R&D project, especially small companies, using federal funding. It's a non-diluted mechanism to achieve financial sustainability or getting financial aid to advance the project. For us in the Puerto Rico Science and Technology Trust, we have a strong commitment, to continue working with the different agencies to advance this program. And the reason is that part of our strategies and one of the key pillars that we have at the trust in our strategic plan is really to increase the entrepreneurship activities in Puerto Rico, as well as to advance research and investigation. And if we look into the ecosystem, we support that objective with different programs. In terms of outreach, we have the Colmena 66, as well as the Puerto Rico Meetup Innovation Meetups, in which we had the opportunity to take new topics and discuss them. If you go to the Colmena 66, you will find a significant amount of resources, educational material, online training material, to see how you can better access and take advantage of the resources that are available to improve the quality of your grant. The other activity that we have been working with is with the local SBIR committee. And this committee have representation from different organizations, government organizations, private entities, educational entities, and now we are adding our entrepreneurs so they tell us their stories and we can identify how can we improve our program. In addition to that, we have, for all the early stage opportunities, we have a grant program that provide grants for researchers at the university, public and private, as well as for a small business. And then we have our Parallel 18 programs in which we provide opportunities for the company to receive financial aids to really move their project forward at a global level. I want to highlight that we are doing the first version of Acércate al Gran, which is a fantastic effort in which we are taking experts on the SBIR topic and have them working directly with just one of the proponents so they can improve the quality and the content and the focus of their SBIR. I also want to remember that with the Technology Transfer and Commercialization Office, we have the opportunity to also work with each one of you, and in particular with all the researchers that are applying for SBIR, to help them manage their intellectual property. And that includes advise them if there is any specific intellectual property that they need to protect, and help and support them through the whole process. So I really am very glad that we had the opportunity to have this very specific event with the Department of Energy. As Eileen will mention, so far she's looking forward for more application from Puerto Rico, because we have been really shy in taking the opportunity to apply for this specific department. So I'm sure that that will change after today. And I'm really inviting all of you to really listen carefully, learn a lot, and start getting your application for the Department of Energy. Thank you very much and enjoy the event.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Now we will have Dr. Juan Figueroa, who is the SBIR advisor among many other roles within the Puerto Rico Science Trust, also giving some opening remarks. Juan, your mic is muted.
Yes, I was. Good morning, everybody, the attendees, and thank you to the Department of Energy for taking time to support us in this effort. The community in Puerto Rico has committed since the trust took the leadership in SBIR. We have moved from a very dormant environment to a more active environment, to the point that we have had about 19 new grants in the last few years. And we have done this by increasing the size of our support. We provide all support to our grantees in fully bilinguals and highly educated workforce. So we are looking forward to working with more opportunities for the trust of the Department of Energy. And we are at your service at anything that we can do for the Puerto Rican community and the Department of Energy to increase the amount of awards in Puerto Rico and to help the local economy. Will be at your service. Welcome, everybody, and I hope that this is a very educational activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Now, finally, most importantly, we have Eileen Chant, who is today's speaker. She is the Outreach Manager at the Office of SBIR Sttr Programs at the U.S. Department of Energy, and she will be sharing important insights about the program. Thank you for having us, Eileen.
Hello, everybody. Very happy to be here today and speaking to you all about the DOE SBIR Sttr program. I'm going to share my screen and get started. Sorry, there we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Well, again, welcome to this webinar on the DOE SBIR Sttr program. I'm going to be explaining sort of the main features of the program, the kinds of assistance we provide, because our program is more than just a granting agency program. We do provide a number of other types of assistance to help you on your path towards commercializing your technology. So those of you who may not be familiar with the federal SBIR Sttr program, as Lucy had mentioned, it's a non-dilutive R&D fund for early stage, high risk ideas. Non-dilutive means that you will own your technology, you will own your IP for 20 years, and that there is not going to be, you're not going to lose any ownership as well in your company, which is not the case for other types of investments in technology that are out there, such as venture capital funds and that type of thing. The federal government has stipulated that 3.2% of extramural R&D. So you have all these federal agencies, NIH, DOE, DOD, doing extramural R&D. That 3.2% of it should go to small businesses for conducting this early stage high risk R&D. 0.45% of extramural R&D for the larger agency goes to an Sttr program, which is a similar but different program as well. As I mentioned before, it's a mechanism to fund early stage ideas. So it's a feasibility evaluation. It's a proof of concept. The phase 1 grant is a proof of concept. You don't have to have a lot of infrastructure. You don't have to have you have to be having the intent to form a small business, but you don't even necessarily have to have a small business formed at this point. It's an idea that you have that also is a good fit with DOE as well. You do have to be a good fit with what the topics that we're looking for. And there are some definitions around small business that you have to comply with, which did you know that a small business definition is fewer than 500 employees? It's not necessarily a very small company. It must be owned by individuals who are citizens or resident aliens of the US. There are 11 agencies that have SBIR programs, with the largest 5 having Sttr programs. DOE is the 3rd largest of the SBIR Sttr programs. Here's a pie chart over here showing the size of the different agencies' programs. And these are the 2019 numbers, and the DOE was over 300 million in 2019. These programs we're not in competition with each other. Each program is a little bit different, even though the general gist of the idea about the programs are the same. So you should look around and see if DOE is not a good fit for you. You definitely want to look around and see what the DOD program looks like and what kinds of things they fund. I should mention that NSF doesn't have specific topics. They fund they will fund pretty much anything they think is a good idea. What they do is they accept pitch papers. If they like your pitch paper, they will invite you to submit an application, and then you go into the application pool. So some of these programs are very specific about topics, and others are more broad. Some of the agencies are contracting agencies, and the DOE is a granting agency. So a granting agency, we give you a grant to conduct your research, and the only deliverable is a report at the end of your study. You're not delivering a prototype or technology or anything like that. The DOE is not the customer. We are funding your good ideas in energy and other areas as well. Let's see. So here's some specifics. As I said, the programs are a little bit different. Some specifics about DOE. I already mentioned that we are the 3rd largest and the size of our program. Our topics are very specific. We issue topics twice a year, once in July. So there are topics out now, and those applications are due in October. And then in November, another cycle of topics are released, which are due. Those applications are due 3 months later as well. You have to go to those topic documents when they come out and look and see if what you're doing, your research and development, is a good fit with what DOE is looking for. Is your technology something that can solve the problem that are being requested in the topics? Another unique feature of our program is that about 6 weeks after the topics come out, a letter of intent is required. You must submit a letter of intent in order to follow through with an application. It's 500 words. It talks about who you are, your company, and then what it is that what is your idea that you're proposing to do, and which topic are you proposing to, and subtopic are you proposing to. If your letter of intent is not considered non-responsive to the topic, not a good fit with the topic, you will receive feedback about that. If your letter of intent is responsive, or if it is maybe in the gray area or kind of deemed not non-responsive, you will not receive feedback. So in this case, no news is good news. Please take note that you can still submit an application if you receive non-responsive feedback, but you want to just take a look and think about whether it would make sense. Is there something about your approach or your technology that you can tweak to be more responsive? But about 80% of the applicants that receive the non-responsive feedback do not submit an application. And that's good, because you're finding out that you're maybe not a good fit, and you don't have to go through the process of submitting an application when you don't really have a very good chance of being funded. If you do decide that there is a good fit for you in the DOE topics, you do want to consider whether or not you want to submit an SBIR application or an Sttr application, or you can actually submit both. The SBIR program, which is almost 40 years old, just had its birthday, 39th birthday last week, is a program which allows you to partner with a nonprofit research institution. If you need an art research institution to help you do some testing, some evaluation, or whatever type of technology is in the institution to help you with your feasibility evaluation, you can partner with a research institution. You can partner with whatever kind of, you can subcontract also to other companies that are out there that are going to help you do your feasibility evaluation. The principal investigator must be the employee of a small business for SBIR. For Sttr, it requires a nonprofit research institution partner. Could be a national lab, could be a university, or could be any research organization that's nonprofit. For Sttr, the PI can be an employee of either the small business or the research institution. The Sttr program was designed to foster technology transfer between research institutions and small businesses. And most people kind of picture like, okay, the technology's been developed based on fundamental R&D in a university setting or a lab setting. And the small business has an idea how to take that technology and commercialize it. Well, that's fine and that's great, but it doesn't have to be that way. The research institution just could be helping you in some way commercialize the technology. And if you fill out an application and you fulfill the requirements of both SBIR and Sttr, you can submit the same applications to both programs. And it's just checking the box saying I'm submitting to both. And they are two different pots of money. So if you do fulfill both requirements, you may want to consider doing that, because it will increase your chances of funding. And then there are different minimum R&D expenditure requirements for SBIR versus Sttr. I won't get too much into this, but that for SBIR phase 1, the small business has to do 2/3 of the research. For Sttr, the small business has to do 40% of the research at a minimum, and the research institution has to do 30% of the R&D. So there's rules, and you just need to pay attention to those rules when putting together your application with respect to the budget. Okay, as I mentioned, there's 2 phase 1 funding opportunity amounts. Phase 1 is the entry point into our program. It's the idea that you have, and you're going to figure out if it's feasible, if the technology is feasible. And you also should be thinking about whether the idea you have is a commercial, will have a commercial application as well. Release 1 is out right now for fiscal year 2022. We have 4 program offices that release topics during release 1. Our program offices are listed here. These are topics about advanced computing, basic energy sciences, which might be certain types of sensors that are required, monitoring techniques, instrumentation advances, and these are probably going to be sensors that some of the national labs can see are sort of needed a few years out from now in order to be able to conduct basic R&D. Biological environmental research submits topics. These are maybe around environmental and atmospheric monitoring. And then there are topics about advancing bioenergy as well too. And then we have nuclear physics as well that releases topics. These topics are a little bit more fundamental in nature, maybe a little bit less applied, but there is a mix in there. If you're interested in these topics, go look now at the topics document. You can find it on this page that's shown here below. And I understand that the slides are going to be shared with the participants. Release 2, is maybe more what people think of DOE in terms of its funding. There are more like applied topics around wind, solar, carbon capture, etc. in this release. There are also some fundamental topics. As you can see, there's high energy physics will release topic. And there are topics around defense nuclear non-proliferation, grid modernization, and there's probably, I would think there are some good fits here with kind of what technologies are being worked on in Puerto Rico at this time. Solar and grid modernization come to mind. With all that sunshine you all have. And then I've spoken about that we have very specific topics. Here's a list of the topics we fund. It's an eye chart. I'm not going to read through all of this. And everybody knows that the DOE, one of its missions is to provide leadership in clean energy. But did you know that our leadership is also in basic energy and engineering sciences? And here's a number of the topics that we fund in this area. And finally, the third area of DOE mission is nuclear security enhancement. And here are the topics around that, including, in addition to nuclear security, we fund topics around the area of cleanup of nuclear weapons waste sites, which DOE has a number of those around the country that are working on cleaning up those sites, and there are topics in that area as well. So again, everybody knows the DOE funds clean energy topics, but here are some other areas as well too that are part of the DOE mission. I mentioned before that phase 1 is the entry point for our program. It's your feasibility evaluation. The amount of funding is $200 to $250K. The research is executed over 6 to 12 months. And we do issue 350 to 400 awards per year. If your feasibility evaluation works out well, you apply to for a phase 2 grant. 40 to 50% of phase 1 awardees go on to receive a phase 2 grant. It's 1.1 to 1.6 million. And your research is conducted over a 2-year period. And we give out about 160 of those awards per year. This is where you're starting to focus on developing your prototype, field studies, and also, very importantly, starting to advance your commercialization plan, working on your customer relations and your pitch deck for customers, and that type of thing. And so the commercialization, you should be thinking about commercialization. You should sort of have an idea in phase 1 about your commercialization strategy. Phase 2 is where it really starts to kick in, where you're working on advancing your plan. You notice that we do have follow-on phase 2 grants here. So if you are making progress, but you need more time, you need more R&D, you need more commercialization effort after the phase 2 award, there are these various different phase 2 follow-on grants. So you can receive funding for 6, 7, 8 years, which will get you past that early stage innovation, that what's known as the valley of death, where you're advancing your technology, your initial seed money might be starting to dry up and before you get to the marketplace. So these phase 2 follow-on programs are designed to help you get through that lean period. Okay, I talked about how we have a release out now. The topics are released. The funding opportunity announcement, or the FOA, will come out on August 9th. It talks about all the specifics of submitting your application and the requirements associated with the program. We will be having a webinar on August 13th. The topics webinars have already passed. You can listen to them if you go to the if you go to this page. That's this link that's shown here. You can go to the register link and listen to them, and you can hear a little bit. The technical topic managers are talking about their topics. So it would be good to go to those webinars and fast forward through it until you get to your topic that you're interested in and listen to those little parts of the webinar. For this cycle, letters of intent are due on August 30th. And you know, here's the rest of the timeline: non-responsive feedback, applications due in October, award notification in January. Most important thing is go to this document here, click on this link, look at those topics and see if there's something that's good for you. On November 8th, the release 2 comes out. Again, these are more applied topics. The topics of solar, grid monetization, etc. are going to come out. Go on November 8th to this page and check out those topics. And then here's the award. Here's the timeline. I guess I won't get too much into this, but again, your applications are due about 3 months after the topics are issued. The review process is 3 months. You will receive notification about whether or not you received award prior to 3 months after you submit your application. And then about 6 weeks later, your budget will start, because there is a negotiation period here with respect to the financial aspects of the program. They want to make sure overhead rate is acceptable, and there's other aspects of getting the contract in place and starting the funding. Did you know that we offer a number of application assistance programs, and all of them are free? We encourage first-time DOE, SBIR, Sttr applicants. You can have applied to other agencies, but if you're the first time to DOE, we have what's known as a phase 0 program. It's free application assistance. You will receive a coach. You'll meet with your coach regularly. They will help you through the topics, the letter of intent, the application, as well as other aspects, some of the commercialization aspects of the phase 1 application. There is a small commercialization plan write-up for phase 1, and they will help you with that as well too. We have webinars on the topics. We have webinars on the FOA. They're recorded, so if you missed them, you can go look at that, listen to them. If for any reason you're not in phase 0, there's an online learning center which has a lot of videos and slide decks about the application, different parts of the application process. It's broken down into kind of registrations you have to do, the letter of intent, etc. Are you interested in exploring DOE National Lab collaboration opportunities? There's a web page that shows you the focus areas, the types of research that are being done at the different labs, and a contact point. You can reach out to that contact point to explore collaboration with the national labs. During the application process, if you are in the pipeline for submitting an application, we offer a weekly Q&A webinar. You can get on and you can ask us your questions. You can always email us any questions. We do respond to questions. We try to respond to every question within 24 hours. If not, we might take a little bit longer if it's a complex question, but we will get back to you. Finally, join our mailing list on our homepage. You can join, that way all the announcements and the resources will be announced for eligible persons, and then you can follow us on Twitter as well. Let's see, how am I doing with time? Okay, good. Okay, so I talked about the Phase 0 program. It's first come, first serve. Once you apply, it's just a couple screens, very quick application process. The apply portal has opened, not will open, and you will apply, and then someone from our contractor, Dawnbreaker, they administer the program. They're application experts, and they will reach out to you. You'll have a phone call with that person, and they'll figure out if you're a good fit for DOE, SBIR, Sttr, as well as the Phase 0 program. And we did have a informational webinar. You can go to this link. The webinar is over now, but you can go to this link and listen to the webinar and learn about the Phase 0 program. I talked about the different services that are offered, and this is just a slide showing that. These are the core services. There are a number of online registrations that are required. Not a fun part of the application process, but you do have to register on 5 different websites, and some of those processes take a number of weeks. So you need to start that early in the process. And they do provide you with some optional services here. You can pick at least one of them in these areas. I think that should be intellectual property and financial assistance. This is what a topic looks like. Pay attention to the maximum Phase 1 amount, because if you ask for more than the maximum amount, your application will be rejected without review. Unfortunately, we call that an administrative decline. If you're thinking of applying to the Sttr program, make sure they're accepting Sttr applications. Please read the topics very carefully. Read the resource, there's references, and those references are clickable and you can read them. Please read the references as well. You should you're kind of expected to be an expert in the area that you're applying to. And you're also expected to know the state of the art of the technology as well too. So read your references, become knowledgeable about what's going on in the field. You may reach out to the technical topic manager. Their emails are given, and you can, from the time the topics are released until the time your application is due, you may reach out to them. But it should be around the topic, to be very specific questions about the topic, and just to try to get an idea of what they're looking for. I wouldn't send them an email trying to sell them on your technology. You just want to try to really understand what they're looking for, and so that you can orient your application appropriately. For the Phase 1, we have 3 technical reviewers who do the review of the application. The review criteria, what are the important things? What makes a strong application? The strength of the scientific and technical approach. You have a strong approach to proving your feasibility of your idea. You also develop a work plan. How are you going to, what are the steps, and what is your work plan in order to carry out your feasibility evaluation? And so your ability to execute your plan and you want to make sure you have the right team. If you're missing someone, you're saying this part of the work plan is not something that the PI can do. Make sure you have round out your team so that the key personnel are able to execute the work plan. And what's also very important is the impact of what you're proposing, the potential impact of what you're proposing. Does this technology have the potential to be an important player in this area of technology? And so the applications are scored, and then they're ranked, and the most highly ranked applications are awarded based on available funding. We have good quality applications every cycle that do not receive funding just because we only have so much available funding. So the strongest applications are the ones that are funded. Once you're an awardee, I do want to mention that we do have persistence programs for a number of awardee assistance programs. One of them that's very popular is the Commercialization Assistance Program we call the CAP. It's available both in phase 1 and phase 2. And you have two options. One is if you have a commercialization company in mind that you think can really help you with developing your commercialization strategy, you can select your own vendor. And in that case, in your phase 1 proposal, in addition to the $200,000 or the $250,000 you're applying for, you need to add $6,500 to your program, to your application, so that you can pay your commercialization vendor. And in the phase 2, you get up to $50,000 that you can add to your application to use your own vendor for your commercialization assistance. But if you want to use our own vendor, you don't have to do anything in your application. When you become an awardee, you become eligible. If you're a phase 1 awardee, you'll become eligible to up to $6,500 of assistance from the vendor. The vendor is LARDA. And if you're a phase 2 awardee, you're eligible automatically up to $50,000 worth of support from LARDA. This program's changing a little bit, but this is how it works now, and it will still be available in some form or another going forward. I also want to mention the Energy I-Corps, which is for phase 1 awardees. If you're a phase 1 awardee, you can apply to this program. And pre-COVID, it was an in-person program. You would fly to wherever it's being held, maybe in DC. At the beginning of the program, it's a 2-month program, and you'd get trained up in the lean launchpad method, which is a way helps you build and test a business model for your technology. Then after you go through the training, you go away, you go back to your home, and you start to develop customer discovery, the things that you were trained on. And you are supposed to conduct up to 30 customer interviews. Some of them are in person. We provide all the travel funds. You have to supply your time, but you will interview. It'll be some type of a hybrid model of in-person and remote, but you will be interviewing up to 30 potential customers as part of this program. At the end of the 2-month period, you go back to DC to a conference, and you talk about what you've learned, and you present some aspects of your plan. It does require a lot of commitment after all I've just spoken about. And so we do try to make sure that the applicants that are accepted into the program are committed to spending the time to doing all this customer discovery work. And we do limit it to 40 participants. You can read more about it on this page. I do want to mention for phase 2 awardees, we have a program called the Diversity Supplement. Now we at the DoE SBIR program office, we welcome applications from underrepresented groups. And we are trying, we have a number of programs in place, and we are working to improve the diversity of our applicant and awardee pool. Our underrepresented groups are women-owned small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, underrepresented states and territories. Puerto Rico is an underrepresented state, and hub zone areas as well too. So we do have a definition of underrepresented groups. We welcome applications from these areas, and we have a couple of things in place. The Phase 0 program is designed to support underrepresented groups as well. And we have a diversity supplement which seeks to improve the diversity of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so you have Phase 2 awardees. They have a 2-year grant. The second summer of their grant, the DOE will provide the funding for an underrepresented undergraduate or graduate student to spend the summer working at the small business. So that means really like Phase 2 awardees, which are small businesses, need to connect with universities and find that student who's interested in working for them for the summer. It's a new program. First applications are due this coming December. And we're hoping, we don't know how many applicants we're going to have this first year. Like I said, we're just kind of dipping our toe into the water in this program. But I did want to mention this to this group, that this is coming. You can look for, you can become knowledgeable about phase 2 awardees by going to sbir.gov. The awardees are listed on that site. They have a nice database on that site for searching for awardees. I'm almost done. I'm losing my voice a little bit. So again, I talked about a lot of these programs. We are not just only in the business of providing phase 1 and phase 2 grants. We offer support programs along the path to commercialization. We want to maximize our awardees' chances of success, and we have a number of resources for applicants and awardees, and you should take advantage of them. I'll go through a few success stories now as well before I wrap up my presentation and we go into a Q&A period. Here is a success story. The name of the company is Opus 12. It was founded by 3 Stanford graduate students. I think they've been around 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. And now they are up to 40 employees. They received DOE SBIR funding, and they have leveraged that seed funding into $19 million in venture capital and private sector investment. Their technology is a catalysis of water and a waste stream of carbon dioxide. There's a catalysis process using a PEM membrane and inputting a renewable source of electricity, and they produce hydrocarbon-based chemicals. So all those petroleum-based chemicals that we use for coatings and lubricants and the many areas that hydrocarbons are used. This would be using carbon sequestration in order to generate those chemicals. You can read more about Opus 12. This link, this is our a write-up about their success story by our office, and this is their website. We also have, I thought this would be of interest to as well to the island. This is a community, a program that has a software platform that allows utilities, energy retailers, and solar developers to offer clean energy services such as community solar. So not everyone is able to put solar panels on the roof, especially if you live in an apartment. So there's this, concept of community solar now where you are receiving solar energy, but it is off-site from where you live. So it's the benefit of clean energy without the hassle of installation. And they have a software platform that allows this, community solar service to function. And they've, leveraged DOE SBIR Sttr funding and are now kind of launching their product with in excess of $5 million in sales during 2018 and 2019. And one other thing I wanted to mention before I wrap up is that another of the topics, if you look at our topics from last year, and actually I should let me just wrap up and mention this. Okay, these are just reminders. I really appreciate everybody listening to our presentation. I hope we have I hope we have an interactive Q&A session so that it's not just me all talking to you, but here are some important online resources. And I think that's the end of my presentation. But one of the things I just wanted to point out, of course, this is our web page. This is our funding opportunity page. And you see that release 1 topics are out, as I mentioned numerous times, but that release 2 topics are not out yet because they're coming out in November. But if you click on this fiscal year 21, these are closed topics. But you can open this release to topic document and get a flavor of what the kinds of things that we fund are. And the new document is going to be the same but different. Some of the topics are going to go away, some will be exactly the same, and some will be shifted a little bit. But another thing that I didn't point out during my presentation that I at least wanted to mention was that we do offer topics in so here's the topics of Office of Electricity and energy efficiency and renewable energy. But I do want to mention that we do have topics on training, such as strengthening business workforces and community partnership strengthening type of topics as well too. So in the event that some of you are interested in that type of effort as well too, we do have training topics out there as well. So anyway, I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention that I recommend you go to this document, which is closed, but we'll give you an idea of maybe what's coming in November. So with that, that's my presentation. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm hoping for some good questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Eileen. I think you've shared some truly remarkable information, and hopefully it helps all the participants create strong applications for the DOE, which is a top interest of the Puerto Rico Science Trust and other organizations working on this topic. Now we will begin the Q&A session. Remember to please submit your questions through the Q&A. We do have some questions here, Eileen. I'll be going over them in a quick manner so you can answer as many as you like. The first question here is, can the business stay in Puerto Rico?
Of course. The requirement of the program is that the R&D must be conducted in the United States, which includes Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands as well, and all of the, the Americas, Samoa, and the Guam, those islands as well too, and that's part of the U.S. So yes, of course. Okay, perfect. The other question here is regarding academic research and thesis. Are commercialization options in these areas apply to these programs? I understand that they do through the Sttr opportunities. So our awards are to a small business, okay? So you must, even with the Sttr program, the research institution, such as the university, is a subcontractor to the small business. So the small business receives the grant. I do want to mention that you don't have to necessarily be a small business to apply, but you do have to be committed to, if you receive a grant, you do have to be committed to founding and starting your small business to execute your idea. So at the time of the award, you need to be a small business. At the time of the application, what you need is an idea and to have the right expertise to execute it. What was the other question? I'm sorry, I think I got off track. Don't worry. The other question here comes from a SCORE volunteer who provides SBI trainings. He asks if he can access the larta.org. So LARTA is a private company, and they contract to us. We contract them to conduct our CAP program. And actually, their contract expires in March, and we're reviewing the program, and now there's other bidders. So we may end up with another contractor, or we may end up with LARTA. And then, like any program, we're going to shift it around a little bit. But you cannot access the CAP program until you're an awardee. Now, LARTA is, of course, available if you want to. This is what they do, and you can certainly hire them to help you with commercialization efforts for sure. They would be available to do that. Okay. He also has 3 other questions. It says here, how can we level our academic knowledge based in academic facilities to be able to provide the infrastructure needed? So the academic environment can provide you with some, important building blocks, I guess, to apply for DOE SBIR. I mean, one of the things you want to consider is because universities will develop technology. I mean, they perform a lot of basic R&D, and there's only a very limited amount of technology developed at the university that makes it out to the marketplace. So you want to look at the technology that's being developed in the university labs and computer systems and that type of thing, and see if you can come up with an idea to take one of those technologies and turn it into something that's commercial. And then of course also has to be, for DOE, it has to be a good fit with our topic. So, if you can kind of merge the research and development activities of the university with the DOE topic, or really any commercialization idea you have, as I mentioned, you can go to the other agencies if it's not a good fit with DOE, such as NSF, which will fund any topic that they believe has potential.
Perfect.
Did I answer that correctly? And of course, the university can be leveraged in terms of their instrumentation and that type of thing. Their expertise. You can add them to your team as key personnel, and you can pay them too, out of the 200,000 or the 250,000. And then the other thing that I didn't mention is that we do, if you have computing requirements. As part of your grant, your SBIR grant, we do have the computing resources. We make computing resources available too.
That was the next question. He asked in 2019 that you had access to supercomputers.
Yes.
What other resources do you have available now?
So let me go ahead and share my screen. We do have supercomputing resources available. If you go to our page, you see there's an awardee resource page here. And we try to list everything that is available to awardees. Here's the computing center, and you follow that link and it will get you to the information about how to apply. There's a PI meeting. I didn't mention that. All phase 1 awardees are invited to a PI meeting. And at the PI meeting, you get to hear about success stories. You get to actually hear panel presentations by angel investors and venture capitalists. And then you get to meet with investors as well too. And just really a commercialization assistance. Like Larda would be there speaking, and Dawn Breaker, who has expertise in commercialization. So the CAP program, which I mentioned, the Energy I-Corps, the diversity supplement. And then there is also, I also want to point out the applicant resource page also. When if you're in the application process, you want to be checking all of this stuff out. And I did mention the National Lab page as well too, which is on the applicant resources page, which gives you some contacts you could reach out to if you wanted to collaborate with the National Lab. Okay.
So that's a lot of resources. He also has another interesting question, which I think it was listed somewhere in the website you shared. He's mentioning that currently we don't have energy-related I-Corps level cohorts programs or similar programs to prepare small business concerns to be prepared for the type of R&D that DOE expects. Can we seek funding to develop a Puerto Rico-based I-Corps? We have 2 cohorts from NSF.
Okay, so this is pre-award, right? Is that what?
I understand it would be like that.
So there are a lot of, and I'm not very familiar. There are lots of I-Corps programs out there, as probably everybody knows. And maybe, I don't want to put Lucy or Johanny on the spot, but maybe they know a little bit more about that. I know a little bit about our I-Corps program. It's not my focus, as I'm the outreach manager, that we have a commercialization manager. Her name is Claudia Cantoni, and she handles like the CAP program, the Energy Core program, the PI meeting, all the things that are kind of focused on going down that road. So I don't know about all the energy I-Cores, but I know like universities have I-Core programs for their professors, and it's a strategy, it's a methodology, and it's used in a lot of systems. But
Eileen, we do have in the Mayagüez campus, they do offer the I-Core program also. And we have an organization here called Guayacán, and Guayacán also offers section of I-Core.
Okay, well, would those be resources for the participants?
They are resources for Puerto Rico. You know, several programs and several awardees of the trust have used them. Plus, as you mentioned, most of the agency do have their own I-Core version if they have a specific phase 1 awardees.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of partnering is that I'm putting my email address in the chat box as well. You can email me with questions after this meeting. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we just hired a new person in our office, and her name is Carol Radke, and she's the lab to market manager, and she's going to be building a program which will help with partnering. Like, do you need to find a manufacturer, to help connect you with customers, to help you connect you with research lab, to connect you with maybe professional societies. So we are starting that program, and if you have some kind of partnering need, even at this point in time, you should reach out to her.
Okay. Just going back to the questions here, we have another one who, from the academic side, asks, many academics who wish to apply to SBIR just create a corporation for the application. The GAO and OIG reports point out the lack of website, no physical address, and key personal conflicts on your work responsibilities as indicator for fraud, waste, and abuse. How can we address these based on newly created corporations?
Many just created. So I guess I wouldn't be too concerned about that. It's not really going to enter into your application at all. I don't know if if you go through the application, there may be some points where you might have to indicate some information along that area. But we do have obviously a fraud and waste, commission or whatever, and it has happened. It's extremely rare, but I mean there are some cases where people were getting SBIR grants and then just like not doing the research, and buying like boats or something with it, but it's extremely rare. And those people were prosecuted, of course. And that's different from like maybe your research not going as well as you intended it to, or that type of thing. That's completely different. If you just don't do the research, you would be subject to maybe returning the money in some cases. But we know that research is research, and that things are not always going to, your feasibility study might not work out. That's part of the process of discovery.
Perfect. So I think we're going to take just 2 more questions to not extend ourselves. So one of the questions is there advice provided related to the tax treatment of SBIR funding as income?
I am going to ask you to send that question to me, my email, and I can get back to you on that. So I guess it would be income. I mean, it would be income because the money is used to fund salaries. So it's treated to that extent that it's salaries, it would be treated as income, and you would be subject to that as well. And we do allow a 7% profit when you figure out your budget. Let's say it comes in under 200 $100,000, you are allowed to add a 7% profit onto your grant, because we realize people are small businesses do require profit, and then there's an overhead as well, an overhead calculation. So if your business profits, then your small business has that whatever the associated tax implications are associated with the profit. So
Okay.
but if you
And
wanted me to, if you have a specific question, more specific question than what I just answered, feel free to email me and I'll get you the answer. I've been here for less than a year, and so I don't know all the answers, but I'm happy to answer them. And that way then I know next time someone asks me the question.
Perfect. Thank you, Eileen. As the final question, I think this is a more general one. What are common mistakes people make during the proposal process?
Well, there are some ways you can have your proposal administratively declined, and you don't want to do that, such as asking for too much more money than the maximum amount that's in the topic. You're not allowed to switch. When you do your LOI, you're saying, I'm going to submit to this topic and subtopic. Your proposal must apply to the same topic. You can't switch topics. So there are some administrative issues, but you can, if you go to our Q&A webinars, we do an overview of that, and so you can avoid it just by going to our Q&A webinars. I understand that you have to be a good fit with the topic, and you have to come up with a good work plan. It's phase one is a feasibility evaluation. You have to come up with a solid work plan to say, like, if I do these steps A, B, C, D, I will be able to evaluate the feasibility of my technology. And again, there are good applications that do not get funded just because we have a set amount of funding that we can use as well. But the other thing that I want to mention is that first-time applicants have a somewhat lower success rate than repeated applicants. So if you really think you're a good fit, and especially when you get your feedback on your proposal, let's say you don't get funded, but you get some positive feedback, I would encourage you to not give up and to try multiple times. And especially after you've been through it the first time, you're going to get better at it the next time, and it will go faster as well. You'll have all your registrations. You have to update certain registrations, but you have a lot of the groundwork laid.
Perfect. So I think with this, we can begin to close. If there are any questions that have been unanswered, Eileen, I'll be sending them to you, and then we'll be sharing with the participants through email. Once again, I just want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar. We hope the information helps you create a strong application for the agency. The Department of Energy, as well as the Puerto Rico Science Trust, have many resources available to help you in this regard. So please check out our websites and our different resources so that you can use them to create your proposals. Finally, I want to give a thank you to Eileen, to Lucy Crespo, and to Juan Figueroa for also helping us in the development and organization of this webinar. And as a collaboration, we continue to keep working together in other efforts in the future.
Thank you, Gian. Excellent work. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you for hosting me, and it was nice presenting to you all. Have a great day.
You too.